Welcome to the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Together we explore the vast landscapes of life, delving into the rich soil of experiences, sowing the seeds of curiosity, and harvesting the profound wisdom that each episode unfolds. Hello and welcome to another episode of Harvesting Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Mike McMahon. With me today, my co-host, Joe Rozelle, Dr. Rozelle, Dr. Bina, okay, that last name, I knew I was going to get Van Mali, and then Farias.
Matt Farias.
Right, the last name, Farias, and you're going by Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, so Portuguese name. I've been to Portugal, but the Spanish always kind of throws me off. I always try to speak Spanish when I'm there.
From Brazil, actually.
Oh, Brazil. Portuguese. Oh, so you're from Brazil.
Yeah.
Portuguese from Brazil. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, I'm going to be in Brazil in 2 weeks. I'm going to São Paulo and
Awesome.
and Rio. So it should be fun. But anyway, my guests today are from GCU, Grand Canyon University. Who's partnered with us quite a bit on different things that you have going on, Joe. So first thing I usually do is just ask where you guys are from and what we just talked about that a little bit, but give me the background on where you're from, what you've done, what's your motivation, what you guys are doing now. Just a little bio so people get a frame of reference of who you are.
Good start.
Oh, okay. Well, I am the Assistant Dean of Science at Grand Canyon. And so I'm in the College of Natural Sciences, and my background is in neuroscience and in undergraduate STEM education. I've been at GCU for about 7 years. And I would say the best part of working there is our students. They are incredible. And it's, a blessing to be able to do the work that I do. And that is just one example of why I feel inspired at work every day.
Matt, tell us about, your journey, how you got there and what have you done to get there and what are you doing now?
So like it was mentioned before, originally from Brazil, a city called Salvador in the state of Bahia. And I've always played basketball my whole life. So when I was 14, my parents were able to send me to the U.S. so that I could follow this dream of playing basketball. Lived 2 years in Maryland and then went for 3.5 years in California. And then this is my first semester here in Phoenix.
Are you playing basketball for GCU?
No, I think basketball was just a way of God sending me here.
Uh-huh.
So he has other plans for me. So yeah.
Not the NBA.
Not the NBA. Yeah.
Okay.
And so now I'm a student at GCU. I'm a sophomore right now. I just did my first semester, but had done community college in California. And yeah, that's a little bit of my story.
So kind of cool because you've, at your age, you're young, at least young from my standpoint, but you've now kind of seen the world.
Yeah.
You've South America, different part of South America, Brazil, right? It's not the Spanish-speaking part, although from what I understand, a lot of people speak Spanish and Portuguese because it's a similar language. You kind of understand it a little better.
Yeah, in Brazil, we only speak Portuguese.
Was that it? Okay.
Yeah. All the other countries around us, they speak Spanish.
Okay.
But Brazil is only Portuguese.
And so you're from there, total different world. And then you've been both in California and you said you were in Maryland, so East Coast, so you've seen both sides of the country. Yeah. And now you're in Arizona GCU. And I did some adjunct professor stuff at a community college level. And first question I always ask the kids is, okay, where have you been? And I always ask, what mode of transportation? I want you to list all your modes of transportation. And what always blew me away is the modes of transportation and the location. So I would say more than half my students had never left the city of Phoenix. And when I asked modes of transportation, some of them never been on a bicycle, or on a bus, and they've only either walked or been in a car, never been on a train, never been in a plane, never been, and it's always kind of shocks me. But to have a world perspective is important because there's world issues, right? We work on things at a local level, but if you've got to be aware of how the world is all working. So it's great to see what you're doing over at GCU and you're there. And do you find that there's a fair amount of students that are international? And so do you feel it's a good experience for you from a standpoint of there's a good variety or diversity of people?
Yeah, definitely. I think in Phoenix, as well, there's a lot of people from other countries as well, since we're close to the border of Mexico, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So not just GCU, just in Phoenix in general.
Just the
there's a
entire
lot of
environment
variety.
because you're living in the
Yeah,
environment, right?
yeah.
So, well, that's cool. Now, you guys are all here because you're involved in sustainability. You're involved in a lot of the things that we're doing with urban farming education. And Jill, why don't you talk about how much we've been engaging with GC and what great partners they've been, and what do you got going on right now?
Yeah, and honestly, I can't talk about GCU without thanking Dr. Rozelle. Her and I started a STEM educator group. We just did a retreat in Chiricahua. So her and I have always been supportive of each other, and she introduced me to Dr. Bina. And this year is our second year of our conference. And honestly, for us, so we've been working on our rebranding and our messaging. And GCU really does typify what we want when we think of a partner. We try to leave a social footprint behind. We're very excited because when we had the conference, we helped them upgrade and create a garden that they're going to be able to use for generations to come. But the big thing for us is we want to close the gap between information and action. So the two next to me right now really typify that. Matt, when he was at the conference, came up to Dr. Bina and said, "Hey, I want to get involved." So we've heard it before. You and I have been doing this for a while, but really excited for Matt and Dr. Bina because Matt, you're starting a club, right? Within 3 months of having our second conference, he's starting his own student club because he wants to start the work on campus. So we're really excited about that. I guess my question to you, Matt, is you went to our conference. What compelled you to want to do that? And looking forward, what is this club going to do?
So initially, Dr. Bina asked me to go to this conference for work. So I don't know, just helping with things in general. But then once I got there, she said, there's not going to be a lot of work for you to do. I just want you to go out there and make connections. Go have fun.
Why don't I ever get a professor like that? Oh, there's not much work to do. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't have those either.
Okay.
So then when she said that, I was a little bit in shock because I've never been in this position before of having the opportunity to create so many connections with so many important people. But it just came to my mind, okay, I'm here already, so I'll make those connections. And I just started to stop at every single booth and talking to every single company and organization that I could. And it would just amaze me to see so many people that are all together with just one goal and one purpose, which is helping the world in general. And just seeing this, that's what kind of grew this need in me in doing something for other people as well. I feel like I've been blessed with everything that I have in my life. I've never suffered from anything. I've always had everything. My parents were able to give me everything, education, love. I always had a place to sleep, food to eat. So I think the bare minimum that I can do is give the same opportunities to people who are out there, same opportunities that I was given.
Yeah, and honestly, meeting Matt, there's no coincidence when you step foot on the GCU campus that you meet students like Matt because they foster this. So in talking with Dr. Rozelle and Dr. Bina, they say, look, we're doing this because we want to give our kids the opportunity to have real world experiences. So it's not about just going to a conference and looking at a garden. We want to connect them with your partners. So we've had really great partners through the Arizona Compost Council and through working with UFE. I know, Mike, you just interviewed Denali and Van Dyke. Both of them expressed interest. But from the conference, working with Urban Terra, working with Soil, Seed, and Water, having real opportunities to help with trials, to test products, to actually do capstone projects that are going to give GCU kids a real-world experience. You want to elaborate on that a little bit, Dr. Bina? Because you're every time I talk to her, she's such a driving force when in advocating for her kids and getting them out there to do the work, to get them engaged and involved.
Absolutely. Today's students don't just want a theoretical education. They really want hands-on experiences. They want to go out into the world and immediately start making a difference. And Matt is a great example of that he said, this is going to help me do what I want to do. And I said, Matt, what do you want to do? And he said, I'm going to make the world a better place. Right? And that's the kind of idealism and perspective we want to nurture, because it takes all of us to make this
and
world better.
education has it's something that's great. About 150 years ago, there wasn't much formal education, but then it hasn't changed a lot. And the reality is the world has.
Very much
And
so.
there's technology and there's social media, and social media is the enemy of young people. Really, it's that Gen Z. I don't even know if you're old enough to be Gen Z, but it's there's a tremendous amount of depression. There's a tremendous amount of mental health issues because the phone is replacing, humanity to a degree.
Connection.
And there's so much. I mean, with education, there's AI. There's so many new methods that you're right. You've got to find a way to really connect with the student, and you're developing a person's, helping them develop their own personality and their own set of standards that they can, a foundation that they can build from for the rest of the world, for the rest of their lives, because,
Absolutely.
they say now that the world changes every 6 years, dramatically changes every 6 years. Humans never have had to deal with that change.
Yeah.
So they have to be much more adaptive than we were.
Absolutely.
And this is a part of that process. But you got away from telling us your story. You're a doctor. You're in charge of natural science. And where are you from?
Well, I was actually born in Zimbabwe, but I've been here in the States since I was a toddler.
Okay.
And
And you haven't gone back.
I haven't been able to go back.
All right.
A variety of reasons.
So Joe, we're launching our ecotourism. I've been to Zimbabwe a few times now, and we've kind of done some basic groundwork. I've done a lot of travel throughout Africa, and it can be arduous. It's not necessarily an easy thing. And Zimbabwe was probably the best country set up back during the colonial days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And great infrastructure, and it was the breadbasket of Africa.
Yes.
And it's not now. So it's but it could be again, and that's the whole idea. It's an amazing place. But talk about the ecotourism and how do we get Bina back
Well,
there?
I think we have a plan for that. We were talking about it when you were interviewing Denali and Van Dyke. But honestly, for us, when you think of ecotourism, it brings up lots of images. So I think we need to dive into it a little bit. But we have two great partners, Run Wild Safari and Tiki Drummond, which have two incredible properties. Like I said before, we're about leaving a social footprint and about closing the gap between information and action. So with you, Mike, and I, and working with our partners, we've really developed a program that's really going to engage people and help students do applied projects. So the idea this year is we want to have a GCU professor and a student go down to help us develop these programs. And we have a couple of different properties in addition to the properties that we're going to do applied projects on with the students, not only from GCU, ASU, but also we just found out we're partnering with a university from Japan, University of Nan. I hope I'm saying it right.
Wow.
We're really
saying it better than I could have.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. But kids are going to be able to go down And the overall vision is for us to create a climate smart agricultural clinics or schools on these properties, so that once they're established, these farms can to network out in the local community in Bulawayo. But south of that, they already have established programs, and what we're really interested in doing is getting students to work with the local schools. So we really have a lot of opportunity for impact, but in addition to that, Mike's developed this program where you really get to see the crown jewel of Zimbabwe. So we're going to do a couple of safaris. We're going to go see Victoria Falls, but probably even neater than that, we're going to go to UNICEF sites. We're going to go to museums. We're going to, and I was telling Dr. Bina this, and I said, we get to go to a seed bank. And I wasn't the reaction I thought. She's like, what? What? You're going to go to a seed bank?
I don't know if as a kid, were you in Bulawayo? Do you know what city you were in? You were pretty young.
Well, I was born in Salisbury, which is now, the capital city.
Okay, you're up north. Yeah.
Yes, but we lived
different world.
kind of in the northeastern part, and then kind of a little bit more central western, Matagallas and other areas there.
Okay. I know. Yep.
yeah.
I know the area. So a little different from where you're going now in Bulawayo.
Yes.
Bulawayo, I like, but the big city is big and it's a different world.
Yes.
But Bulawayo, you're going to love. And when even though the crown jewel, we call it, it's the Vic Falls, it's being on the Zambezi, the sun is going down, and that's amazing. And the safaris, of course, are great. But
Yes.
to me, the area that we're going is the farm for the Drummonds. It's a farm, but it's also a huge property that's conservatory, and they're rewilding. So and this is a different world. And so this is not the same as any kind of, my kids, when they graduated from high school and from college, they toured around the world and stayed in hostels and did the Europe thing and everything else. And you're seeing old cultures, which is great.
Right.
But it's different from seeing the world like maybe it was 10,000 years ago. And
Right.
seeing these animals and seeing the bush. And it's also it's a place that really can use some help.
Yes.
And the help is really for us, it's taken a long time for us our mission really is capacity building. So we have a platform for education from preschoolers to senior level in high schools, but the idea is that we adapt to the standards of where we are and the cultures. So we're not really appropriating culture or anything to that nature. We're just trying to help build that capacity for students. And it's a different thing. It's not necessarily building, everyone's not an engineer. So there's vocational aspect that's really critical in areas like that. And a big part of what we do is agriculture. I'm a soil guy, and I've been a landscaper for 40 some years. And so agriculture is an important thing, especially in today's world where there's drought and where there's a lot of
Yes.
problems. So that's and to do it though, we came up a long time ago to realize you can't do anything without community.
That's correct.
Oh my God, that's the hardest part. So no NGO wants to deal with the community aspect because it's just so hard to get people to see together and work together. So building that capacity for people to actually work together is a big part of what we do. So hopefully you guys get to go and you get to go back, because the Natural Museum, Science Museum in Bulawayo is special. It's different. That's all I'm going to say. If you get to go, and you see it from when it was in its glory, but it still holds what it needs to do, and it's the perfect way to start and go on safari. I've been on just a lot of safaris everywhere. You name it, Namibia, and, Ethiopia or whatever, wherever I'm at, I do some
Kenya.
kind of. But this is different because it's almost like getting it's like a summer school education before you go to do something, which is great. So hopefully you're part of that. But other than that, what else do we got?
Well, Dr. Bina's actually done student travel. So, just talk to us a little bit about what the impacts could be for students that want to travel and be part of not just, going on safari, but actually making an impact.
Well, I can speak to this from both the perspectives of a student and as a faculty member, and actually as an educational consultant for trips like this. I did this in a former position.
Okay,
at
you're going
another
to take it over
university.
for us.
The opportunities are only limited by our imagination. I firmly believe that, and that's because, you know, and I think it's important for our kids today, especially to hear it, that we can do what we want to do. The technology either exists or will be in existence. If we can think of what we need and then find the right people to connect to, we can build these things, right? And so talking to Joe, when he's talking about developing an educational site in Zimbabwe and offering these opportunities to undergraduate students to experience things like rewilding, but also the potential to set up research opportunities and to be able to visit cultural heritage sites. It's literally life-changing. And I can say that as a faculty member who took students on study abroad trips at another university. And literally from my first cohort, 3 of the students out of the 15 moved to Europe after graduating with their bachelor's degrees. Because the idea of staying in the United States now and not experiencing these other things felt too limiting.
Well, you made it more accessible for them. That's what you did.
Well, I think
And
as a student's grades change, they have a different motivation. They now want to be part of the world.
Yes.
And so they're no longer being just dictated or lectured to. They're part of the learning process. In Africa, their students are not called students, they're called learners. Right? Is that, yeah, learners. And so that's a great way to look at it. And I think, hopefully that you guys get to experience some of that. And this is, we've got a blend of tourism where you're seeing, some incredible things. And then we're making ours a little bit more of an expedition adventure. This first one is, you still got the training wheels on a little bit, because there's some things that maybe you're not ready to see right away and work on and do right away. But you'll get just enough of an exposure to see.
Yeah, when I was talking about it with Matt out there, he kind of looked at me like I look at my wife when she brings out a pie. My eyes got really big. I'm like, I want it. So I want to know, what piqued your interest, Matt? I mean, I started talking about your eyes got really big, and you're like, ooh, that sounds pretty amazing. What's getting you excited about the possibility of, and I know in my short conversation with you, it's not just the travel, it's the opportunity for impact. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that. Why would an opportunity like this excite you? And the second part is, how are you going to use it with the club and get other kids excited to, like Dr. Bina says, experience the world?
Yeah, definitely. So going to Africa, or it doesn't even need to be Africa, but just going to a different place like Africa has always been in my plans. And I think to go out there and to see a completely different culture and completely different people, where things look nothing like what we're used to here, is something that every single human being should do at one point in their lives. So when you were mentioning some little details about how the roads were not paved and how the methane thing that you mentioned.
I was talking about
the
methane.
Well, no, I was talking to them about the cooking systems.
Oh, yeah.
Because, one of the things you and I and Mike have talked about.
Digester.
Well, is everyone thinks that, everything over there is primitive. And I would say that's not the case. We saw a lot of ingenuity. We saw a lot of technology that you wouldn't see at some. I was a principal in American schools where I thought, wow, that's a great system. That's a great innovative way in a rural part to bring cooking gas.
Right.
And they're
just
really
burning off your waste, and now you've got something to do with it. Sure. We have the food hydrator. So some of these things are in Malawi, where we've been in those communities longer, and we got more projects going on there. But the same thing applies everywhere throughout that region, and I think you'll find it's going to be fun, but we're trying to make it so it's not just fun. It's like a little bit of work, so we've got Arnold's farm. Arnold's families had the farm, so 2,200 acres, which is small in that part of the world, but 2,200 acres is about 100 times bigger than the campus at GCU, for instance. But we're trying to bring that back. So that was used for cattle. Cattle did a lot of damage. You can still do some cattle, but it's now reduced in how you do things. So a matter of bringing animal husbandry back, a little bit of farming back. We want to take, there's a river that goes through, and we just want to dam it up, not environmentally doing damage, but just enough to be able to run irrigation throughout. We want to put in solar pumps for animals and slicks because we want to rewild, and maybe an animal hospital too. We're talking to vets. So a lot of cool things going on. And what we're going to do when we get there is we want people to explore the land and help us cite where some of these activities can be and why, and get an idea. So that's a project. When you go, we've got an app on the phone. So when you go to on any one of the things you're doing, you're going to be required to be thinking the whole time. You're going to see a seed bank. Why is that important? Because the type of seeds we're growing mean nutrition, right? And how do you do that? How do you bank seed, and how do you and the seed banks are really, the seed bank there is really incredible. So that's a fun thing. The ruins are amazing. It goes back 300 some odd years. But the farm at Tiki's place, when we drove, I remember driving through that, and you're kind of climbing up in elevation, and they got these rock piles, and I felt like I was in Jurassic Park or something. Just something I've never. And I'm driving through, and then all of a sudden an elephant or a zebra goes by or whatever, and you're just, what in the heck? And so it's a really fun trip, and there's a lot of things. Ideally, when we're down at that in Tiki's place, you guys might go in and teach a class or work with a class at one of the village schools, or work at the farm and for a couple hours do something, weed or do something. But the idea is to try to just see it all and do it. And it's not a typical, a trip. But I think it's one that is, life-changing. So let's get off the ecotourism.
I've got a topic for him because I promised I'd let him talk about this. So Matt and Dr. Bina, they're going to start this club. And one of the things I was really impressed with Matt, I said, well, do you need some help getting everything started? He's like, no, I got it. I'm good. But after having some conversation, he does have the basic application down. It was really exciting because I gave him the advice, like, you know what, Matt, be true to your goal, but be flexible on your pathway. And he said, yeah, in talking with a couple of partners, getting ready for the podcast, things are changing. So I'm going to throw the question out to Matt and to Dr. Bina. What do you guys hope to accomplish this year with this club, and what message do you want to say out there to GCU students to get them excited to work on some of the projects like a foodscape? I know this is your pet peeve, Mike, because you're like, why do you spend money and water on things that don't produce food? Well, you'll be happy to know they're going to address that problem. So what's the big goal for this year?
So everything started with the idea of planting things that grow food, such as fruits and vegetables, on campus, because we have a lot of land, and just the community around GCU in general would benefit a lot from this. So that's how everything started. But especially after conversations like the ones that we had today, I'm starting to see.
But Denali's, they want you to rethink on how you manage your waste at GCU, right?
Yeah. So after these conversations, we can see that there's just so much more that we can do. Not only just grow foods and give it to the community, but we can do so much more. Anything that you want to add to that?
Well, and I think all of this falls under the umbrella of sustainability. What are the actions that we can take as a university, as a group of students, as the College of Natural Sciences, partnering with groups like UFE and, Greenlight Solutions, Van Dyke, Denali, all these groups, to leave a footprint, right? I'm always talking about thinking globally and acting locally.
That's my favorite thing. That's
right. And this is such a fantastic opportunity for us to do that in a way that will positively impact the surrounding community on a daily basis by providing nutritious fresh food, right? And one of the best things, there's so many great things about GCU students, but one of the best things is every single one of them wants to make the world a better place and wants to help other people. I don't know that as many of them can articulate it as well as Matt does, but you put up any opportunity to volunteer and you have students signing up.
You just need to see the pathway, right? You need to, because the pathway is not, there's a lot of blocking mechanisms in our lives that prevent us from doing this. So you have to understand that pathway. And that's the other question I would ask students is when you travel, or if and when you travel and you go places, what are you seeing? Because the travel experience is totally different. You can get 100 people. I've taken friends of mine to Africa and they still bring an American mindset. They're still Americans when they're there. They're looking to be in this hotel and go there, and they're judging everything by that standard, and they don't understand. So that's part of what we're doing. You know, my background was in engineering and architecture, and so when I go to travel, I always want to gravitate toward looking at, like, if they have an amazing bridge or something that's some engineering marvel, or I want to look at architecture, whether it's from 1,000 years ago or from, something brand new, and look at it. But I've also learned that I want to taste the culture. Because I want all my senses. So I want to eat the food. And have you had a Morapani worm at all?
No.
Your parents never brought that back for you. That's a delicacy.
I'm a vegetarian.
It's a worm. I don't even know if it counts.
It's an insect. He tricked us all into trying it. It's not the best thing, but it was kind of neat because one of the places we went to, it was one of the childhood memories of Brother John. He remembers going down to the golf course and picking up the worms and eating the worms. So it really helped to connect us to Brother John and to that part.
But it's the music.
Yeah.
It's all the senses, hearing and feeling. The temperatures. The temperature actually in this part of the world is the best. It's like California weather. So you're going to have 75 to maybe not even 85. It's going to be in a really tight range. This time of the year is the winter over there, so it's drier. So you don't have much in the way of bugs. I mean, it's perfect weather. You know what I mean? Which is also something that maybe you don't expect. You're expecting, oh my God, I'm going to get into, it's going to be freezing cold or very hot or whatever. And it's really just really very pleasant. But again, everything you do, so from, if you learn, this is a way of learning how to travel too. From now on, every time you go somewhere, you're aware of what, and I believe in doing a little bit of research. Joe and I have finished a book about, about the development of Africa and why it's why it is the way it is right now. It goes back a long way, mostly the modern history of the last few hundred years. But it gives you an idea. Going into this museum is phenomenal. You're going to just love it, So, but these are short little excursions that are all one thing after another that are just, mind-changing. I got back to ecotourism. So let's get away from that again. Okay, so your club is just beginning in the school year. See, where are we? In the school year just ended, but you're setting this up for
the fall.
The fall school year. Okay, that's great.
So some of the things we talked about, we talked to Denali about doing a tour of their facility, and also working, maybe talking to Van Dyke to do some internship opportunities. And we had a great opportunity at the U.S. Compost Council to also connect with the airport. So one of the things you and I have talked about a lot, Mike, is a lot of the organizations, nonprofit, are kind of siloed. So it's activities like the conference and the clubs where we're trying to break that down, and we're trying to give students an opportunity to have these real world experience. And I know we've moved off of ecotourism, but that's kind of what that is too. We're giving kids the opportunity to go to a different part of the world and actually apply what they're learning to do something.
And just here
different.
locally, you can have a trip coming out to our compost facility. You can do, or go to the gardens that we're involved in. And one of the gardens is right at GC. We have the bag system garden that we put in with the garden, and I think Ashley is graduated now, right?
She is. So we're going to have to pick a new Ashley, but I think we've got a new Ashley right here.
I don't know how much more you can handle, but
Yeah.
he can help appoint the new Ashley.
Yeah.
How's that? Because that's a full-time gig too.
Yeah.
And she was great in the garden. So, GCU's got a lot of really cool things going on, and hopefully we continue doing the things we're doing, because we've come to the realization that we can have so much more impact if we're working with other nonprofits. So we are in Lacuni. It's a little bit like swimming in quicksand, a lot of the things we do. But we've been foodscaping there. We put in thousands of trees on the campus, and we have pocket, gardens here and there, and we try to do things. But the limitations and the some of the issues we have to deal with are different. Like, I want to do sugarcane along the river, but all the people I work with you can't do it. That'll all be stolen, and then I'll put a fence around it. No, the fence will be stolen in the first day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, okay, this is, see some of the limitations, but, and it's not that, and the biggest part, I think, of the book we've written is it's not that people are people everywhere on the planet. It's just circumstances have gotten, to a point where if you were living there, you'd be stealing the fence too. That's what you have to understand, is that because, you're in a survival mode, it's a very different world. But what I love in, like, Malawi, poorest nation on the planet, is that everywhere you go, people are smiling. Mm-hmm. And I'm a grump. I have run businesses. I have employees. And when you go there and you just, people walk up to you and they smile and say hello to you, and it's like, it's morning. What are you asking me hello for? Whatever. And that's what you get. And Joe and I think you and I were driving down the street, and we were driving, our driver was driving reckless and crazy, and there's all kinds of people in the street and stuff. And he laid on the horn with, I can remember, two bicyclists, an old rickety bicycles, and they looked back, and I thought I'd get what you'd get, the American salute here, right? But they looked back at us as we're almost running them over, and they just smiled. I was like, what the heck is going on here? So it is an amazing thing that, and you're from different parts of the world, but, here, what's really amazing is how much we have, but how little we appreciate it. And I think that's a big part of it, where they have nothing, yet they're smiling. So, figure that out. That's part of that equation. So anyway, what else do we need to go?
Well, we already started planning for the next conference, and I think it's in February. So one of the things I'm excited about now, instead of just the College of Natural Science, which is awesome, we're also partnering with the College of Engineering. But one of the things I'm excited about, and just having conversations with Dr. Bina and Matt, they're going to take more of an active role. So I'll just throw the question out. We're going to have another conference. What is it that you would like to see, Matt, at the next conference? You're going to have a club. You're going to have a student engagement. You went to the one we went last year. There were lots of, I think we had 15 or 16 different partners there. What is it that you want to see at the next conference?
Well, I would say first thing, having our own booth.
Okay, there you go.
Very
We're gonna
nice.
have our club booth.
And what's the name of the club?
GCU GROW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Territorial already. I love it. Okay.
And then next thing, I would hope that we would have already created connections with everybody that is there. I think that's one of our main goals with the club, is getting outside of campus and creating these partnerships with all these organizations and companies that were mentioned here already, such as UFE, Green Light Solutions. So yeah, these two.
Yeah, and I know, Dr. Bina, I kind of think I know what your vision is. I think that you want to use this as a way to get students to talk about their capstones, right? With all these great partners. Am I right?
It's one of the things that
Okay,
I
all right.
definitely want to see included. We've actually already been talking about, by how many hours should we increase the length of the conference to enable students and their industry partners, for instance, to be able to share the projects that they've been working on together.
Yeah.
Because one of the great things about our capstone projects across both colleges is that we want our students working with industry partners, whether that's, ADEQ, or if it's a business that's starting up and needs some new technology developed, which, the technology group students would be doing. Or if we're building artificial limbs for somebody who's coming back from, who's a war veteran, for instance, right? Whatever we're doing, we want there to be a positive impact, and we want the students to be able to know what that feels like. Because once you understand that you can positively affect others, and that it's not always huge actions, it's a series of small actions, I would say that that's probably the best kind of addiction you can have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think our capstone experiences provide that for our students very much. And it's why so many of our students are finding ways to be of service, if not in their formal careers, at least as something that they do related to their careers, right? And so it's really exciting to be partnering with UFE and these other groups, because we have the potential to do a lot of good.
So before I wrap up, I'm going to ask a question, which is a loaded question. You guys are in a different perspective than a lot of people. We're in a more and more of a cynical world, and we're getting more cynical, which is not good, because skepticism is great. Cynicism is dangerous for us all, and it's a culture, right? So I'm going to ask just a simple question: why bother? Matt, why don't you answer that one?
I think as as we're the future, I'm speaking not only for myself, I'm speaking for the people my age, the college students and so on. I think if we kind of close our eyes to what's happening in the world right now, it's just gonna keep getting worse. And this is definitely not what I want for not only myself in the future when I'm on my 50s, 60s and so on, but also for the generation that comes after me. So if we just...
If there's one.
There
That's
will
what we're
be.
fighting for.
That's
what we're fighting for. So
that's right.
I think we're the future. We're gonna be the next leaders. So we need to step up. We need to do something about it. So that's why we should bother.
Bina?
This is exactly my why, right? It's not about me and how it impacts me. What I love about being an educator is that we have the opportunity to positively impact our students' lives and the lives of those around them. And, I feel a lot of days like it's a great privilege to work on a college campus, because I'm surrounded by that inspiration every single day.
Great.
So the why is when you have that level of inspiration, you see the passion from somebody that's so young and so ready to take on the world, how can you not be?
Great. Well, we've got a lot of different schools over there to connect with as well. So
Yes.
That'll be a good experience. Joe, as I wrap up, any other final thoughts?
Well, we've got to do this, right? Everyone lopes up.
Okay.
All right, lopes up, everybody.
Any hand is good with that?
Want to thank
Either way is
GCU
okay.
for being a great partner and being here today. And to answer your question too, it's I think we should bother because I've definitely experienced a lot of great things, and I've had people help me along the way. I'm at the point where I need to look back and start pulling people up behind me so they have the same opportunities I have, and I know you feel the same way.
Right. Well, great. My guests today, I thank you for being here. Bina, Matt, Joe, and really excited and looking forward to what we can all get done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you for joining the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Click subscribe and like for ongoing insightful conversations. Explore our webpage for show notes and additional resources. Visit our guests' webpage for deeper insights. Your engagement is the foundation of our journey, and until next time, keep pursuing wisdom.